Hi, Harry. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Glenn. How are things?
Good. A little cold here.
Is it?
15 below last night. Little cold. I think it's our last snap of winter, and then we're gonna head on up.
That is cold. In fact, you made me cold, so I'm putting on my sweater.
Hi, Scott. Are you down in are you in Seattle?
I am, yes.
Okay, great.
Getting prepared to see your friend.
You know,
Steve.
I'm having dinner with Steve about a week from now.
Oh, good. Well, I'll probably have seen him by then.
Excellent. Okay, let me see. Claire, we need to move Lee Griffin from attendees into panelist. And I'm not having that capacity right now, if you're able to do that.
I will change you and change him.
Thank you. Oh, lovely. Thanks. Okay, it is 10:10 a.m., which is our start time. So I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. I know people are still trickling in. Actually, if you want to put that screen back up again, Claire, that would be helpful.
Sure.
Thanks. Sorry to make you toggle back and forth there. So it is February 23rd, 2022, and I'm calling the Committee of the Whole for the City of Missoula City Council to order. We are still having virtual meetings. So if you want to attend virtually, if you go to our website and go to the meetings and agenda page for the City of Missoula, you can click on this meeting via the agenda to join to provide public comment. The link is called Join the Meeting. You can also call in, and for landline users, I'll just read that number off. Landline number I have is 1-888-475-4499. And you can also, this is also streaming, and it is live or on demand and through YouTube. So lots of different options for people to watch it and to participate. Given that, Claire, if you want to take that screen down and do a roll call for attendance, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. 1 second. Anderson,
Present.
Becerra,
Present.
Carlino,
Present.
Contos. Absent.
Correct, he's absent.
Hess,
Present.
Jones,
Present.
Jordan,
Present.
Nugent,
Present.
Savage. Absent.
Absent, I guess.
Cheryl,
Present.
Vasika. Absent. And West.
I'm sorry, present.
Oh, gotcha.
And West is present.
All right.
Great, thank you. Looks like we've got 10 out of 12, so we have a quorum. We have minutes from January 5th, 2022 to approve. Are there any changes to those minutes? Seeing none, those will stand approved, and I'm calling for public comment on items not on the agenda. We have no one in the attendees room, so we'll go on with our agenda. We have one item on our agenda today. It's a global settlement agreement and release with Carlisle Group. This is regarding the acquisition of the water utility. And I am really happy this item is in front of us. I think this is a lot of good on so many levels. So I'm happy we are hearing this today. And Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it over to you to introduce, if that's okay.
Absolutely, and thank you, and good morning, everyone. Appreciate you all being here and your time this morning. We are here today to seek your approval for a global settlement agreement with Carlisle Infrastructure Partners in Carlisle. The organization that originally purchased Mountain Water from the Wheeler family, subsequently sold to Liberty Utilities, and with whom we've been engaged in litigation for a long time. In fact, since 2014. With me today are members of our legal team, Tasha Jones and Scott Stearns from Boone Carlberg, and Harry Schneider from Perkins Coie, who represented us through the condemnation proceedings and ultimately through our acquisition of Mountain Water and the conversion to Missoula Water, as well as all of the litigation that's gone on since, including our effort to recoup what we believed were ill-gotten gains by Carlisle as a function of the way they conduct business with the city of Missoula. As some of you may recall, and some of you are only becoming aware through this process, we believe that Carlisle had acted in bad faith, which is actionable under Montana law. And we also believe that we had an opportunity to recover damages as a function of their behavior, as a function of a letter agreement that we had with Carlisle and the Clark Fork Coalition. A judge ruled that this question was arbitrable. That is, it had to go to an arbitration panel. That arbitration panel was comprised of an arbitrator the city chose, one that Carlisle chose, and one that the two other arbitrators agreed upon. And we proceeded to make our case for damages based on this bad faith claim. That litigation in front of the arbitration panel went on for some time. And late last year, the arbitration panel ruled in Carlisle's favor. That document is public and available. The arbitration panel decided that we did not have proof in writing of Carlisle's behavior, and in a nutshell, that was the linchpin. Carlisle, post ruling by arbitration panel, reached out and offered to have a conversation about reaching a global settlement, because the arbitration was only one of the ongoing questions that were being litigated The rest were being litigated in, or have been litigated in state district court here in Missoula, and in one case elsewhere. Those questions that are in front of the district court have financial consequences for both parties. And it all depends on how those court rulings were to go, whether financial liability falls to the city or it falls to Carlisle. And while we generally speaking always think we have a good chance to make our case, particularly in state court, there is risk involved in that. In addition, damages or attorney's fees that could be awarded in the arbitration case are at the discretion of the arbitration panel, which ruled in favor of Carlisle. We believe that Carlisle would ask to be made whole for the entirety of its legal fees, which they have informally suggested are far and above what this settlement offer lands on. We were talking something on the order of between 10 and $15 million back of napkin. And I don't have much reason based on experience to not believe that those fees are what they would ask for, and we have no idea what they would get. Carlisle came to us with an offer to settle all claims, the arbitration claim, and every remaining claim in district court, all of which pose a risk to the city as well as to Carlisle. They suggested a settlement figure of $5 million in consultation with attorneys and staff. We negotiated a settlement number of $4.13 million, and that's what we're asking you to approve. It settles all of the litigation that's pending. It settles the arbitration case. We write a check for $4.13 million, and we're all done. Carlisle has no claims against us, nor do we have claims against Carlisle. At the end of the day, we own the water system, which was our original goal. We own the system, we operate the system, we pay the debt on our mortgage, in effect, a bond issue. And we have been investing millions of dollars in upgrading the utilities since we took ownership in 2017, and all of that work will continue. The financial impact of the settlement agreement will be debt service of about $318,000 a year. All of that debt service is paid through the water utility. There will not be a rate increase to support that debt service, nor will there be any effect on general fund taxes. The system can absorb this cost with minor impact on our ongoing capital improvement efforts, which again, we're engaging in to the tune of millions of dollars a year. And that investment is far above what Carlisle or its predecessors in interest had invested in the system. We continue to be committed to the long range maintenance and security of the system, and none of that changes. I would rather not write a check, but the fact of the matter is that I believe that this is the best deal that the city of Missoula is going to get. It's the most predictable, it's the most manageable, and I also believe that we were right in pursuing our claim. I will tell you that the attorneys joining me today are remarkable professionals, tremendous advocates for the city of Missoula. And not only did they successfully engage in an enormously heavy lift in proving the public necessity of municipal ownership over private ownership, but they're friends of the city, and and one is an honorary resident, and the two are actual residents. And through the course of arbitration, these very smart professional people believed that we had a solid case that was worth litigating, to the point that that they put their time and treasure into it. The arbitration was litigated by the folks here on a contingency basis, and so as a function of our loss, they have invested literally millions of dollars of their time and resources to litigating this case on behalf of the city of Missoula, and are not getting paid, and that, I think, speaks to character and judgment and commitment, and I'm extraordinarily grateful to them. Also before you today is a reimbursement resolution that allows us to pay Carlisle based on the terms of the settlement agreement within 30 days of your approval. I will sign the agreement. We will loan the water utility the settlement number, and we'll reimburse the Treasury as a function of a bond sale that will include not only bonding for the settlement number, but also some additional infrastructure that we intend to pool as we take advantage of favorable interest rates and opportunities, again, to make reinvestment in the system. Attorneys are here to answer questions, as is our Chief Administrative Officer, Dale Bickle, and we are happy to do that. The short version here is that again, our ultimate goal has been achieved. I guarantee you that we have that our purchase of the system will have saved ratepayers in Missoula millions and millions and millions of dollars over the course of our ownership, while improving the system, which desperately needed it as a function of deferred maintenance. And we continue to control the most precious resource that I think is available to make life in the city of Missoula happy, and that is our water supply and distribution system. This closes the book on an expensive but necessarily expensive chapter, and allows us to move forward with a clean slate and continue to do the good work that we do to make life possible here in our community every day.
Great, thank you for that introduction. As I said earlier, I'm really thrilled to have this item in front of us because I think it's good on so many levels. And before going to questions, I also just wanted to briefly comment on thanking our attorneys who have done an extraordinary job in terms of the condemnation case and also this follow-up arbitration case. I'm an attorney, so I have a sense of the culture out there, and I want Missoula to know that the attorneys that we have had representing the city of Missoula are of an incredibly high caliber. Boone Carlberg, Tasha Jones, and Scott Stearns are amazing local attorneys. Harry Schneider from Perkins Coie in Seattle. These are top flight attorneys. So, and the amount of time they have put in paid off in terms of ultimately acquiring this system. And if we were still 2 or 3 years ago contemplating the bad faith case based on what we knew back then, I voted for it and I'd vote for it again. I wish we'd had a different result, but I think we gave it everything we had. And I know our attorneys are absolutely amazing. So there are a lot of communities out there that are in different situations because they have private ownership of a utility and they're not able to acquire it, and they've tried and they failed. And it's a testament to our good attorneys that we are in a very good situation right now. So having said that, I'm going to go to counselors for questions. Mr. Hess.
Thanks, and I'm happy to make the recommended motions if that's in order now. I do have a few questions as well.
Thank you, that is in order, and go ahead. We'll have questions and comments.
So I guess, first of all, throughout this litigation process that I've had the privilege of being able to be involved in a little over 8 years on council now. This was actually one of the very first actions that the council took when I was seated along with Brian von Lossberg. Throughout this process, we've heard from our attorneys some calculations of risk, and often would we do better in a Montana court proceeding in this way or in that way? And I guess a question for the legal team is what is the extent of the risk that we're potentially exposed to if we don't move forward with this settlement, and if we soldier on?
I'm happy to respond if I might, and then Tasha and Scott can chime in if they wish. The arithmetic is pretty straightforward. The claims that Carlisle still has pending are in both the court case and also the fee award that they are entitled to seek in the arbitration. The short answer to your question is it's probably a $12 to $15 million exposure. How much of that would actually be recovered is, of course, uncertain. But my view is that they will recover some fees in the discretion, the amount of which would be in the discretion of the panel, but the entitlement to which I think is contractually certain. So that amount we don't know, but when you look at the $12 to $15 million exposure, it consists of not just the fee application, but also counterclaims in the arbitration which have not been liquidated, and then there's the litigation still in our was in the appellate court back in front of the Superior Court. Includes an effort to seek more than what Judge Townsend awarded in fees, which was a substantially discounted amount. So I hope that begins to answer your question. Maybe completely does, but it's about a $12 to $15 million exposure. With some uncertainty as to the number, but in my view, a very high likelihood that they will recover some substantial portion of that. My personal reaction to the settlement figure was that it was lower than I would have expected. I think that probably is based on their lack of enthusiasm for a public proceeding where the conduct would be discussed. And I think it's also in recognition of some exposure on their part in the underlying case if it does go forward in court on the remaining claims. Does that help?
Yeah, that's really helpful. And may I have a follow-up?
Go ahead.
I think that also through this process, we've been planning for a variety of scenarios. I remember when we took out the financing, we had a Series A bond and a Series B bond, and the first was to pay for the system and known costs, and the second was essentially a contingency fund. I believe that was around $24 million that we had considered as far as a worst case scenario of potential additional costs in acquiring and operating the system. And maybe Dale could correct me if I'm incorrect on that. But so this is it's not the best case scenario, but it is far from the worst case scenario. And I guess I am stating a question in the form of a long rambling statement, and maybe there isn't a question here so much as just a statement that this is a lot better than it could have been. And in 100 years, the only thing that's going to matter is that we own this water utility. Hell, in 50 years, in 20 years, tomorrow, the only thing that is going to matter is that we own this water utility in perpetuity. And so this is a drop in the bucket, so to speak, in the timeline of this community and the timeline of this water acquisition. And it's well worth it to me to have this settled, to have it put behind us, and to have certainty moving forward. This process and the associated uncertainty has been fatiguing for for city staff, for our attorney team, for water system employees earlier on in the process, and for our community. And it's time to move on. And I think given the circumstances, I certainly wish we would have prevailed in the bad faith. I think there continues to be I continue to believe very strongly that we were dealing with an entity that was not transparent and forthcoming in their dealings, but given the arbitration panel ruling and given all of the legal expertise we've had from our team through this process, I think this is just by far the most prudent course. So I'm supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cheryl.
Yeah, thanks. I was not on council when we went through the condemnation, but I just want to take a moment to thank everyone that did this for our community. It is critical that we own our water, and there are many communities around the country that do not and have tried and failed. So I also just want to point out that while we did not win the bad faith claim, it does not mean that they did not act in bad faith. It means that we didn't have enough of it in writing to prove that beyond a doubt. And, if you read the opinion, I think you'll see that. So, I think these large companies need to be held accountable. And I think we worked at doing that. So, I don't have a question. I just wanted to make that comment. I'm supportive of this. I will be happy for it to be done. And I really appreciate Jordan's comment that, in the end, and probably in 5 years, if not before, this is going to be a drop in the bucket as far as the importance in owning our water system. So I'm supportive. I'm glad it's over. And thank you to the attorneys and everyone that has just been involved in getting this done for our community.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Vasika.
Thanks. So it's no secret that I am not a fan of the takeover of the water company, but I have to give credit where credit is due. In this takeover of the company, the lawyers did do a really good job. So congratulations to you all. I am in support of this motion because I'm happy that we were all able to come to an agreement and that this is going to be over with. And so I will be in support of this today.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson.
Thanks so much. I guess my question is for the Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Bickle. I appreciate the presentation and the overview that the mayor gave, but I'm just wanting to, if you could just break down the numbers a little bit for us in terms of, $4.1 million is a large number. But how is this going to be serviced? Where is that coming from? Are people going to see an increase in their rates? I know that we just approved a rate increase. And if my memory serves correct, we are still below previous rates. So I would like for you to kind of lay that out for us so that folks understand, this, it's a large number, a large amount of money, and how is that going to impact them as water customers, and how are we going to service that debt, and then kind of what's the overall impact, so they can sort of put it in context.
Thank you for the question. So when the city took over the water utility in 2017, our original models were built on the rates that Mountain Water were charging at the time. However, leading up to that, the Public Service Commission changed their rates as a penalty for the sale of the utility to Liberty without Public Service Commission approval, and reduced their rates by 6%. As we analyzed that and updated our models, we found that we were able to operate the system at that rate that was 6% lower than the rates in 2014. We have been operating under that rate. Essentially, that was a penalty back to the 2011 rates of the private utility. we've been operating under that rate until this January, where council approved a 3% increase that took effect this January. So we are still today operating at rates that are lower than when the city initiated condemnation in 2014. And I always want to be able to point out that not only did we acquire the system, pay our legal fees, defendant legal fees, we've tripled CapEx, but we've all done that in the context of a rate that's lower than when it was in private ownership. Now, the settlement charge today will affect the utility. Really it affects our CapEx plan, but our ability to bond this will help pay this over time, and so it wouldn't have a significant impact on our capital improvement program. I mean, it will prohibit. We will have $4.13 million in the long run that's not available for investment, but at the end of the day, we are still operating at these perfect rate levels and have total control of the system.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from council? Ms. Vasika.
Thanks. So I just wanted to let the public know that this will be I gotta get that pulled up, a charge of so we'll be paying that service of $318,000 every year for 20 years. Is that correct?
Yes. Dale's nodding his head yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Hess?
Thanks. I think it's important to understand the trajectory of capital investment in the system. And Dale, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what capital investment looked like under private ownership and what it's looked like in the last under municipal ownership, and just to put that in perspective, because it will be an impact on capital investment moving forward, but it's still so much better than it was.
When the city acquired the system in 2017, the system leaked more water than it delivered. That was a top priority of us to be able to get that under control. And I think, as you've seen throughout the numerous construction projects that Missoula Water is undertaking, we're taking that seriously, not only from just a best practices perspective, but a sustainability perspective, where every gallon that's leaked is a gallon that's pumped. And we've been able to invest. We've about tripled or more than tripled the amount of investment in the system since we've taken over. We've got a long ways to go on pipe replacement. We are working on getting our capital investments up so we can more quickly address the leakage issue. But we really strive to give the utility the resources it needs to really increase that capital plan.
Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Thanks so much. I appreciate Ms. Vasika pointing out the exact number, and just want to confirm where that money is coming from. It will be coming out of the water utility, not this question is from Mr. Bickle, that this is coming out of the water utility, not the general fund or property taxes, and that this will offset against capital improvement projects, and Missoulians shouldn't anticipate a rate increase to cover this, correct?
Yes, that's correct. There's no property taxes involved throughout the condemnation proceedings, and those costs. It's all of these costs have been allocated to the water utility itself. While the council did approve the first rate increase as we've owned the utility last December, that those rates are going to be sufficient to be able to service this debt.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cheryl?
Yeah, thanks. Actually, I think Ms. Anderson just articulated what I wanted to, but I mean, basically this is the payments of $320, that's not the exact amount, per year is going to slow down capital improvements slightly every year as we pay it forward. It will not be on property taxes. It will not be in the general fund. I just think that I want to make sure that that's clear going forward.
Great, thank you. Mr. Nugent, Mike Nugent, that is.
Yeah, that was similar to my line of questions, but I did want to make a request maybe for a future Public Works meeting would be to have the utility give us an update on what their capital projects have looked like since the city took ownership compared to what it was the several years prior, as well as kind of what the next X number of years look like in planned projects, just because now that we own it, it's completely ours. It'll just be nice to understand and have a better opportunity to frankly educate the public on why this mattered and why it's important. I also would just say congratulations and thanks to those of you who had the foresight to move forward with this, even though at times maybe it wasn't popular with some people. The fact that the city has accomplished this all, and as Dale has shared, all of this is basically being paid for by revenue from the water company, and we're still rates haven't increased as much as they would have in private ownership, and we're doing more capital projects, should be seen as a tremendous success. I also think it's a positive for us that we aren't going to have to talk about this anymore at the council, because every time it comes up, it seems like more misinformation about how much it costs taxpayers goes out there. So I just appreciate that Dale has had the opportunity to kind of illustrate clearly that this did not impact people's property taxes, that these costs are covered by the water revenue itself. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Mayor Engen.
The horse may be deceased at this time, but I'm going to beat it one more time in an effort to be absolutely crystal clear. The Missoula City Council took the recommendation of staff and consultants to raise utility rates in water, wastewater, and stormwater based on system needs and operational needs, and the necessity to continue to be in compliance with our permits, and to temper the leakage in the water utility. That rate case was based solely on operations of those utilities, never in anticipation of any settlement agreement. And so in terms of rate, one more time, this settlement is absolutely neutral to the ratepayer, and has, while $4.13 million is absolutely real money, in the scope and perspective of what we do, it is minimal to our capital improvement program. Second, one more time, making it crystal clear, we will not be raising property taxes to support this settlement. Once again, we will not be raising property taxes to support this settlement. Please do not misinterpret that we will never raise property taxes again. I don't want to, but we may need to. And that's the nature of our work. And at some point we will raise utility rates again. That is the nature of that work. But today this settlement is absolutely neutral to the pocketbooks of ratepayers and residents.
Thank you for that. Seeing no other hands, is there any public comment on this item? If so, please raise your hand. I see city staff. No one raising their hand in the attendees other than, okay. So we have no public comment. I'm just going to take a couple minutes and add my 2 cents in. Thanks for all of the clear information this morning. I want to take an opportunity to scope out a little bit. What we're dealing with today is frankly the very final phase of this entire gigantic project that the city of Missoula took on over a decade ago. This is it. This is the final phase. But I want to create a little context around that. I voted in 2017 when we were awarded the utility via condemnation, and I voted to acquire it at that point in time. And my vote on this final phase, I think these are going to be my 2 most important votes during the entirety that I'm on council. And I'm happy and proud to be making them. And to create a little context or history, I wanted to point out, I said this in 2017, but I'm going to say it again. When I was in the 7th grade at Paxson School here in Missoula, Montana, Mayor Bill Craig, the Missoula mayor then, came into our 7th grade class for a civics lesson. And the entire time he talked about how we need to get the water company. It has been decades that Missoula has been working on this, trying to acquire the water utility from private ownership. And we finally had a mayor and a council and a legal team that got it done. I can't emphasize that enough. The other vignette I wanted to throw out there is I talked to my daughter a few weeks ago. She's a senior in college at Michigan studying urban design and sustainability. And in her sustainable cities and civil engineering class a few weeks ago, her professor talked about Missoula, Montana as a case example of the right thing for a municipality to do to acquire its water utility and take it over from private ownership into public ownership. And that this is absolutely crucial for municipalities to do in terms of sustainability and accountability and the fact that water is a basic human right. So I want people to know that Missoula, Montana's water acquisition is being taught in colleges across America as an example of the right direction for a municipality to go in when frankly some municipalities have been either unsuccessful or are going in the wrong direction, trying to figure out how to prepare for the future as climate change comes. So that's my 2 cents. We have had public comment on this item. I see no other hands raised. Thank you, attorneys and staff, for your time on this. We will have a roll call vote.
Just 1 second while I set it up. All right, Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Nugent,
Yes.
Carlino,
Yes. Oh, could you hear me? Yes.
yes, yep, I gotcha.
Thanks.
And that was 10 yeses.
Thank you. That motion, John, did we get you?
No, but my vote is yes.
John,
Oh, sorry, well, I didn't see you jump in the meeting.
John Contos. I
Not a
believe he-
problem.
All right, I'll add you and your vote. All right, thank you.
I'm also here, Claire. This is Jennifer Savage.
Oh, we have 12 of 12.
We did.
And I vote yes.
Okay. Thank you. I believe that is a 12 vote, unanimous vote on this. Thank you everyone for your time today. I'm going to put this on committee reports for Monday night, just in terms of gathering any other public comment and letting Missoulians know that this is the final phase and we're closing it out. So that will be on committee reports Monday night. And thank you everyone for your time. We will stand adjourned.
Thank you all very much.